Okay, today is the 9th day of 45 days of trying to learn the violin halfway across the world in Austria. The other day, we went out for pizza to this Italian place. Where I am in Austria we're right on the border of Slovenia and Italy. So it's like I don't know, my roommate said it was like an hour or an hour and a half to get around northern Italy and about like 45 minutes to Slovenia. But there's this Italian restaurant, like a real nice family home Italian restaurant. You know, the kids are like running around, the waitresses are like the parents' daughters, and so every time you order something and you ask if it's available, they always go, I'll go check with mum. But obviously I only get this through translation by my roommate because I don't speak any Italian or any German, which makes it even more confusing because like there's one guy speaking Italian to the waitresses who are like half speaking in German but also in Italian because only one of us speaks Italian and I don't speak any of those languages. And then on top of that, the other roommate speaks Slovenian, so he's like on a call with his mom just randomly in Slovenian, and so I don't know what the hell's going on. But basically they're super nice people, super great food, are very cheap as well, which is nice because one of the goals here is to not run out of any money. But we get our pizza and I'm like, maybe I've learned like one Italian word. I was taught porta via. I think porta via is like takeaway because I couldn't finish my pizza. But we were like talking to them because the other people, the roommates that I'm staying with, know the pizza place way better than I do. So we were talking to them and they're like, you know, they're very friendly with everyone. But obviously I don't know what's going on, so I'm just like sort of sitting there like, yeah, pizza, yeah. But then we come up at the end to pay, and Philip, who plays the trumpet, talks to the owner, the father, and he asks about me and what instrument I play. And I say violin, and he goes, Paganini. I just thought that was hilarious. That was basically the only thing I understood that whole day was like takeaway and Paganini. And I was like, yes, that's me, Paganini. Which reminds me that we are practicing today's in Paganini. I'm not sure if that'll be recorded. Basically, our repertoire, I've got it all written down so I don't forget to practice anything each day. We've got to practice the Bach adagio and presto from the G minor sonata, wieniawski, polonaise, A major, and then Paganini, caprice 14 and 16. Which very hard pieces. Well, I mean, the Bach is okay, I think, at the moment. The Paganini's, yeah, I'm not quite the Paganini level that the pizza man said. Anyway, the plan for today is that we are going to practice some more staccato. If you were watching the previous episode, you would know that that's something I was struggling with a lot. But we're also going to practice, I'm going to show off this really amazing exercise for practicing shifting, because shifting has been a real like trouble of mine, especially shifting faster shifts, like in a fast scale run where you have multiple consecutive shifts. I think it's a problem with a lot of people because it's just difficult. It's a difficult thing to do. And obviously I don't use a shoulder rest, normal shoulder rest. So I have this, and I have like a sponge that you put under your shirt that people, who uses them? Isaac Stern used one, Zukerman, Heidelich, these sorts of players that are sort of like in between nothing and a shoulder rest. So shifting has been very hard, but this one exercise that we're going to go practice is really beneficial. We also might take a trip down to the lake later. The weather's looking very nice outside, although it seems to happen that the weather's like nice here most of the day, and then at 4 o'clock, like bam, as soon as you like look at the time, 4:01, it starts raining outside. So hopefully that doesn't happen and we can go for a nice dip in the lake. That'd be good. But without further ado, let's not waste any more time, get to practicing. So one of the biggest problems I've personally had in my playing for quite some time is about shifting, and the fact that my shifting has just been so terrible. I've tried a lot of different things, a lot of different, scales, different methods to try to fix something, But this is one of the only things that's really, really worked, and it's worked really, really well. As you notice, as I mentioned before, I don't have a shoulder rest. So I use this and sometimes this, like a little cushion and a cloth just to fit in the, the valley. But this exercise is an exercise in shifting in thirds from Dunas, which means you take a third and then you shift in the third, right? So like that. There's a little bit more to it. If you just want to look it up yourself, this is 177, page 177 of the Dunas collection. You can just go and Google the Dunas collection. Demetrius Constantine Dunas was quite an interesting violin teacher, and that he didn't teach at any major universities, because most of the most famous notable violin teachers, Auer, Galamian, etc., they were all attached to a university, like Galamian, obviously, Juilliard, etc. But Dunas sort of just taught privately, and it was a little sketchy because people at the universities who weren't happy would go to Dunas, and then the university people would find out and they would go, no, don't do that, you're gonna get kicked out. But essentially this exercise, well, I'll read out what Dunas says about it. It is generally acknowledged that the practice of thirds is one of the best, if not the best, means of shaping the left hand to fingerboard requirements and of promoting a good position of this hand and a correct placement of the fingers on the strings. Yeah, he writes like his time, which is, when was this? I think it was mid 20th century, New York. And so basically what he's saying is that shifting in thirds is really fantastic for calibrating your hand position, right? Because if you shift one note, that's one note, but I could also do this and still make the shift, right? But obviously one version is a little more optimal than the other one. And so essentially this exercise of shifting in thirds forces you to keep that frame wherever you go, which means whenever you play in single notes, it's now much easier to play and shift in tune. You know where the places are going to be. See, if I did this and I didn't shift in thirds, I would go, I maybe would get the shift, I wouldn't know where my fingers go after. But now that that was out of tune, but see, the other fingers go right there. And this keeps the hand much, much more calibrated. So I find it very useful for getting through all of the fingerboard. There are a few different rhythmical variations of this. You play a dotted, right? There are a couple things to focus on if you want to practice this exercise to get the most out of it, so that you don't just mess it up and play it wrong. The first thing is that all the shifts are meant to be slides. You're meant to hear a little bit of a slide. There's the fingering is written one, and there's a line between to the next one, right? So you were meant to slide, not a ridiculous amount, but you're meant to hear a slide. The whole shift is meant to be a slide. Because the idea is that shifting is much more effective when it comes from a slide rather than a sort of jumpy, jittery motion. You need it to be fluid whenever you shift. And so this exercise really promotes that. So make sure if you practice this, not so that's number one. Number two is you need to release the finger pressure. So when you shift in the third, you don't play the whole third the whole time. You just play bottom, top, and then shift, bottom, top, shift, bottom in notes. right? And so the bottom fingers, you should leave on all fingers you can. So if you shift is 1, 3, you should have 2 behind it in the right position that it would be to play, depending on what key you're in. But when these fingers are shifting, you make sure they're as light as possible. The unused fingers go to the pressure of just a little harmonic as you shift. So that has to be full pressure. Now you release, you incline towards like this a little bit, right? So you're not jumping, you're sliding. Okay, that's basically all I've got. Practice it, try it out, let me know how it goes. I know not a lot of people will probably watch this, but I think if at least one single person sits down watching this video, puts it on pause, looks up the Dunas collection, pulls up page 177, reads what he says and plays this exercise, I think that's worth it because it is really that beneficial for your playing. Okay, I'm gonna go practice. That's enough for this data set, and then we'll get back to the piece of the day.
A lo mejor te olvido, a lo mejor jamás.
Look at that.
We went out for a nice dinner, and it's now that time of day where we talk about the piece of the day. So the last piece we listened to was Webern's Langsamer Satz für Streichquartett. That was terrible, man. My German I think it keeps getting worse. So this was a really interesting piece because the story behind this and why I know it is because I heard the Esme Quartet, who are a Korean quartet. They came and they played a concert in Perth, and this is one of the pieces they programmed. They had quite an interesting program. They played this piece, the Webern. They played Mendelssohn too, which is amazing, but we're not on the list because it's not Austrian, obviously. Then they played the Debussy Quartet, which is also a great quartet, and they played some modern spinning spirals piece or something like that. I don't really remember it, to be honest. But I remembered this Webern being quite a surprise piece on the program, because obviously if you go to see a concert where a string quartet programs Mendelssohn 2 and the Debussy Quartet, obviously that's what you pay attention to. Especially for me, I paid attention to the Mendelssohn because that is such a wonderful, wonderful quartet. Debussy, I do like it, but I think I almost like the Ravel more. Those two always get compared a lot. But this quartet movement by Webern was really interesting because Webern, of course, everyone knows from when you have to do history class. They go, Schoenberg and 12-tone, and then continuing on with Berg, Webern, right? 12-tone music. But this is very far from 12-tone. In fact, it almost sounds like Brahms in many passages. I don't know if that's a controversial statement. I really think it does in quite a few passages. You can hear some of the modernism a little bit, but really it's just like a really rich romantic, maybe like a Rachmaninoff sort of. I think Brahms is probably closest. And I went to the concert and I thought, wow, it's quite a good quartet. So it was written when he went, I put this in the video yesterday, but if you didn't watch it, it was written when he went to the countryside when he was young with his cousin, and they fell in love or something like that. And he wrote this piece inspired by that. And it was meant to be, I believe it was intended to be a full quartet, but he never finished that full quartet. Or I think any other quartet in this sort of Brahms style. So that is the Webern Quartet. Great piece for quartet. It also fits nicely into a lot of programs, because like the Esme program that I was talking about, if you play 2 quartets, you can play the Webern. It's only 9-10 minutes, you know? Also you could play, you know, maybe you're playing less, you play 1 quartet and the Webern. Or if it's at some university class concert where everyone's playing, you know, everyone's playing and they play 1 movement, you could play this. So I think it is a nice piece, and I think it does well without the other movements. It feels complete. Whereas some pieces, unfinished or single movements, just feel like it's a bit out of place. Like, why, what is this doing here? You know what I mean? With that being said, I thought about this a bit, and we put it honestly at the bottom of the list, which says more about how good the other pieces are than how bad this is, because this is by no means a bad quartet. It's a great quartet. But the Hummel Sonata, the Mahler Symphony, Mozart and Schubert, I just think they're better pieces. I mean, depending on who you ask, I think you could make a case for it to take a place above the Mozart Quartet. Sorry, I'm looking at the rankings here, but you can't see them, of course. You can make a case for it to be above Mozart, the Mozart trio, sorry. But have a listen, try have a play, maybe get some people together and sight read it. Tomorrow's piece will be Mahler's 5th Symphony, hopefully. The only problem is that I'm thinking it may take me more than a couple listens to sort of get the idea of it. But that's the complete list. I've had a great time. Hope you learned something through the shifting exercise. That's something you can actually implement. Like I said, if one person uses that, I think that'd be a good use. So we've got our piece of the day done, our practice done. We went out. It was a good day. I will see you all later.